Have you ever felt like you're fighting battles no one else can see? You wake up with your mind already racing, pressure waiting for you at work, uncertainty about your future, doubts that never fully go quiet. And still, you're expected to function, perform, and move forward like nothing is happening inside. Most people live like this their entire lives. Overstimulated, reactive, controlled by circumstances instead of controlling themselves. They let fear guide their choices. They let doubt shape their identity. They give their power away to pressure, people, and situations. But what if there was a way of thinking that made you mentally untouchable? A mindset so stable that chaos can't shake it. So grounded that pressure can't bend it. So strong that when you enter a room, people feel something different. Not loud. Not aggressive. Not emotional. Just presence. Just authority. Just inner strength. Today we're entering the mind of a man who mastered resilience at the highest level. Miyamoto Musashi. Not just a warrior who won over 60 duels, but a man who conquered the most dangerous opponent of all, himself. If you clicked on this video, it's because you know something has to change. You want more than survival. You want discipline, clarity, direction, mental power. And that's exactly what this journey is about. Musashi may sound like just another historical figure from ancient Japan, but behind that name is one of the greatest examples of self-mastery ever recorded. Born in 17th century Japan in an era defined by violence, instability, and war, Musashi entered the warrior's path as a child. At just 13 years old, he fought his first real duel, and won. That victory wasn't the achievement. It was the beginning. From that moment forward, he walked a path that would turn him into a living legend. But what made Musashi extraordinary wasn't physical ability. It was awareness. While other warriors obsessed over technique, strength, and weapons, Musashi focused on something deeper: the mind. He understood what most people never realize: the mind is the true battlefield. He built an internal system stronger than any sword. Musashi wasn't only undefeated in combat. He became a strategist, a philosopher, an artist, a thinker. His ideas were preserved in the Book of Five Rings, not as a combat manual, but as a blueprint for clarity, discipline, and inner mastery. What's remarkable is that many of his victories happened before the fight even began. His reputation alone broke opponents mentally. Not fear of his sword, fear of his presence. Fear of his composure. Fear of his certainty. Fear of his mental strength. He rejected tradition, created his own system, built his own path, and proved that mastery is not about technique, it's about identity. He became the model of a warrior who conquers himself first, and the world second. Modern psychology now confirms what Musashi lived centuries ago. True resilience is internal. Researchers call it psychological resilience, the ability to stay mentally clear and emotionally stable under pressure. Neuroscience now shows that mental strength can be trained the same way muscles are trained. So what is the monster mindset? It's not violence. It's not aggression. It's not dominance. It's inner stability, unshakable discipline, absolute focus, emotional control, mental stillness in chaos. Think about the last crisis you faced: conflict, loss, failure, pressure. How did you respond? Most people panic, react emotionally, collapse mentally, freeze, avoid, run. But what if those moments weren't weaknesses? What if they were training grounds? Musashi believed difficulty wasn't a curse, it was instruction. Pain was education. Discomfort was growth. Adversity was refinement. The monster mindset asks one question: what is this here to teach me? It turns fear into strategy, pain into fuel, resistance into development. Here's the truth most people miss: fear isn't the enemy. Weakness isn't the enemy. Surrender is. Avoidance is. Reaction is. Emotional living is. Strength is facing difficulty without losing yourself. The real monster isn't loud. It doesn't posture. It doesn't seek attention. It's calm, controlled, stable. It's the person who doesn't fold under pressure. The one people sense something different in, but can't explain. Neuroscience research from Stanford shows that people who train emotional discipline and mental control physically reshape their brains, especially in areas tied to stress regulation and emotional stability. The brain adapts. It becomes stronger. Musashi didn't leave behind victories. He left behind principles. Principles that apply just as powerfully to modern life. And this is where the mindset is built. Not in theory but in action. Principle 1. The path is practice. Musashi's first law was simple: the way is in training. Every day is practice. Every moment is refinement. Every action is conditioning. But most people misunderstand training. They think it's about intensity, big moments, breakthroughs, motivation. Musashi knew the truth. Mastery is built in repetition, in routine, in boring consistency, in showing up when you don't feel like it. Your life becomes your training ground, your habits, your routines, your discipline, your standards. Every small action shapes identity. Every repetition builds character. Every choice trains the mind. Because the path isn't found in grand moments, it's built in daily behavior. If you want true excellence in any field, you can't rely on motivation. Motivation is unstable. It comes and goes. It depends on mood, energy, circumstances, and emotion. Discipline doesn't. Musashi didn't repeat sword movements thousands of times because he was weak at them. He repeated them because he understood a fundamental law. Mastery is built through repetition, not inspiration. Greatness isn't an event. It's a routine. Daily practice is the most tangible way to shape your future identity. You don't wait to feel ready. You don't wait to feel inspired. You begin, and repetition transforms you. Every day you avoid your craft, someone else advances. Every day you show up, you separate yourself from the crowd that quits when effort becomes uncomfortable. High performers across every field share one defining trait. They practice regardless of emotion. Not when they feel good. Not when it's convenient. Not when conditions are perfect. They practice because it's who they are. The difference between amateurs and professionals is not talent. It's consistency under resistance. Principle 2. Discernment in every choice. The second principle is quieter, but more powerful. Understand the cost and value of every action. Musashi never acted blindly. Every movement had intent. Every decision had calculation. He understood that not every win is progress and not every loss is failure. Most people live for short-term comfort. They choose what feels good now over what builds strength later. They trade future power for present relief. Musashi lived strategically. He thought beyond the moment, beyond emotion, beyond impulse. Sometimes growth requires discomfort. Sometimes progress requires sacrifice. Sometimes advancement requires patience. This mindset forces one question before every decision. Does this move me forward, or hold me back? Does this strengthen my future, or feed my weakness? Does this action build the person I want to become, or preserve the person I'm trying to outgrow? Modern life is full of silent erosion. Endless scrolling, distraction culture, low-quality relationships, mental noise, time-wasting routines. They don't destroy you instantly. They drain you slowly. Powerful people live with intention. They choose deliberately. They act strategically. They move consciously. Because they understand a simple truth. Every choice is construction or corrosion. Principle 3. Awareness beyond the obvious. The third principle sounds abstract, but it's one of the most practical skills you can develop. Learn to perceive what others overlook. Musashi didn't dominate through force alone. He read situations. He sensed intention. He observed patterns. He felt momentum. Not mysticism, awareness. This is situational intelligence. The ability to read energy, body language, silence, tension, atmosphere, timing. Most people live distracted. They miss signals. They ignore patterns. They fail to read rooms. They react instead of perceive. Presence creates power. Stillness creates clarity. Observation creates advantage. This applies to everything: business, relationships, negotiations, leadership, conflict, opportunity. When you're attentive, you see problems before they explode. You sense tension before conflict. You detect instability before collapse. You recognize opportunity before it becomes obvious. Not because you're psychic, but because you're present. The world always signals before it shifts. Most people just aren't paying attention. Principle 4. Adaptability. Musashi believed rigidity was weakness. He changed posture, style, timing, rhythm, approach. Because reality is fluid. And inflexibility breaks. Adaptability is modern survival. If something fails, adjust. If a strategy collapses, redesign. If a method stops working, evolve. The mistake isn't failure. The mistake is attachment to what no longer works. Strong minds treat setbacks as information, not identity. They don't take it personally. They take it seriously. They extract data. They refine approach. They recalibrate direction. Resilient people don't cling to plans, they commit to outcomes. They move forward through change, not against it. Bringing the mindset into real life. This mindset isn't philosophy. It's behavior. Because knowledge without execution is just mental entertainment. Understanding principles doesn't change you. Living them does. In your work life, pressure, deadlines, insecurity, uncertainty, competition. Most people react emotionally. They complain, blame, panic, avoid, freeze. Musashi didn't react. He responded. With strategy, with clarity, with composure, with structure. Applied to your life, this means you control what you can control. Your preparation, your standards, your discipline, your mindset, your response. You don't control markets, but you control readiness. You don't control people, but you control professionalism. You don't control chaos, but you control behavior. This creates psychological authority. You become stable under pressure, calm in chaos, reliable in stress. And people feel that. They trust that. They follow that. They promote that. Not because you're loud, but because you're solid. Now look at your relationships. How many conflicts begin not because of real problems, but because no one is truly listening? How often do situations escalate because emotions take control, because timing is wrong, because words are chosen without awareness? Musashi studied movement before impact, intent before action, momentum before collision. You can do the same emotionally. You can learn to read tone, energy, silence, tension, timing. You can feel when it's time to speak, and when silence is power. Because not every argument needs to be won, and not every reaction needs to be expressed. Sometimes winning the moment means losing the connection. Strength in relationships isn't dominance. It's regulation. It's knowing when to apologize, knowing when to stand firm, knowing when to step back, knowing when to draw boundaries. Most conflicts are never about the surface issue. They're about respect, safety, validation, security, being seen, being heard. When you learn to perceive what's underneath the words, you stop fighting symptoms and start resolving causes. This is also warrior discipline. Because true strength isn't controlling others, it's controlling yourself enough to bring stability into the room. Personal growth. Now bring this mindset inward. Think about that fear that keeps you from starting. That voice that says, not yet, not ready, not enough experience. What if I fail? What if I look stupid? What if I lose? Musashi didn't wait for readiness. He grew through action. He learned through friction. He developed through failure. He sharpened himself through resistance. Because readiness is not a requirement for action. Action creates readiness. The monster mindset turns life into training. That speech you're afraid to give? Training ground. That business idea that scares you? Training ground. That hard conversation you're avoiding? Training ground. That discomfort you're escaping? Training ground. When everything becomes training, nothing becomes defeat. Life doesn't get easier, you get stronger. And that's the difference between survival and resilience. Between coping and becoming unbreakable. The daily system. If you want to embody this mindset, you need a ritual. Not a complex system. Not a complicated routine. A simple structure that sharpens you daily. Because disciplined people don't rely on motivation. They rely on systems. They don't wait for inspiration. They create momentum through action. Morning alignment. Before the noise of the world enters your mind, before notifications, messages, and distractions, set your intention. What are you conquering today? Fear? Procrastination? Avoidance? Weakness? Complacency? Write it down. Because writing turns thought into structure and intention into commitment. Strategic action. Choose one action that proves the intention. Not symbolic, real. A hard workout. A focused study session. A difficult conversation. A bold decision. A disciplined choice. Do it with presence, not distraction. Not autopilot. This isn't about busyness. It's about direction. Evening reflection. At night, review the day. What did I learn? Where did I resist growth? Where did I act with strength? Where did I act with fear? What would I do differently tomorrow? This isn't routine, it's identity formation. Because warriors don't live unconsciously. They live deliberately. Not hype. Not ego. Not motivation. Stability. Control. Resilience. Identity. Every day. Every choice. Every reaction. Every decision. Musashi's legacy isn't about swords. It's about discipline, clarity, structure, presence, courage. So ask yourself, what battle will you win today? And don't answer with words. Answer with action. If this message strengthened you, support the channel, share it with someone who needs it, and commit in the comments to the one battle you're facing today. Not the whole war. Not the whole transformation. Just today's fight. Stay disciplined. Stay present. Stay unshakable.